Hello, this is Derrick from the dznpodcast. I am one of your hosts, and we are here with, state your name, Zoe.
Young Pluto or Alfonso.
Nas isn't here. He's doing what he's supposed to do, getting money. But we also have a guest in the building this afternoon. State your name, sir.
I am Derrick Hefner, or as most know me in the music industry, mrheffd.
All right. Now that we got that out the way, let's get hit with this music, though.
Nice song from Dream State.
Y'all feeling good? Y'all all right?
Not too bad.
Cool. Anything new and exciting in your lives as of late?
Nah, just keeping up with the NBA. That's about it. I'm trying to.
Everybody's going to the Lakers.
I don't know. I think it's going to be evened out across a lot of teams.
True. The Clippers actually got a team. That's the first time in a while they had a team.
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't count the Derrick, Blake Griffin, and Chris Paul.
Well, they still had a team, though.
Yeah, because they had DeAndre Jordan. I mean, they had Blake, CP3. They had a squad.
That's Kawhi Leonard. All three of those guys are just Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Got a quick one?
Got a quick one?
Got a quick 8?
I don't know. You got something more aggressive?
Let's see about this one.
Okay. Is it? Alright. Quick question: where did our minds go? Like people walking around with a blindfold. My time's gone, the old times is gone. People looking at me like I'm strong, but I'm really holding on to what I think though. A lot of people trying to really. Wait. Hold up, I don't got that one loaded yet. Hold up.
Say you loaded, but it ain't a gun. I'm talking on the freestyle, but it's really something. It's really nothing, but I'm coming up my mouth though. Brain MC on the lyrics and I beat though. I made a beat though. My name is Retro. Throw it back, put it in the new with the sound though. I make you know why it's coming like how come. Now you see me on the track and it's how come. I'm so nice at this instant where I'm at. I'm at where I stand. I'm so tall at. I'm only 6 feet, but I act like I'm 8 feet. I crush up anybody on this fucking beat. Like I'm the Hulk, like I'm a bandstand, like I'm American, but I'm still a black man. Goddamn, I'm saying something, man. But if you really think about it, man, it's nothing, man.
Right. Flows and hitting, I get to spitting and then get riddance. I kill these people with the pencil, hot as sizzle, cold as a blizzard. My niggas know that I'm going, put the pistol to their gizzard. Bunch of cluster fucks, they don't know what go what up. On the bottom, half these niggas cover me up, cause these niggas lunch, all I do is eat, that's a bunch.
That was a good cadence. I like that. I did like that. It's slow, and then but you come in.
Hey.
You on quick 4?
Oh heck no! I am not a rapper. I'm a producer, engineer, music business guru, but I am not a rapper.
All right, man. Let's cut this off. All right, but yeah, man. Welcome to the DZN podcast. Once again, I am Dre, and we are here for episode 20. Got 20 episodes, man. It's been a long time coming, long ways, man. So, we do have a guest, and as he said, he is engineer / producer / music publishing guru. Explain a little bit how you came in the game.
Gosh, how far back you want me to go? I know we've talked, at my house for hours, but how far back you want me to go?
I say give the people as much as they can take from this.
All right. Well, in order, I mean, because music is, I mean, it surpasses race and it surpasses so many things. So I'll quickly say this. So biologically, I'm white, but my mom that raised me since I was 5 is black. So I was raised in a black household. So from that, and I think I told you this a couple weeks ago, that I was raised around like true jazz, the Louis Armstrongs, the Billie Holidays, even getting newer, the Bob James, David Sanborn, because that's how, my that's what my mom would play. When you're cleaning house, and but my dad, and I always say this, I love my dad to death. I look just like him, but he's a goofy white dude. So he was, the Beach Boys and Steely Dan and Fleetwood Mac. So I had the best of both worlds. Well, the good thing is that my sister, my stepsister, listened to like hip hop, because I mean I was born in the 70s. I'm older than I look, so then I came up with the inception of hip hop. So I'm always like listening in the hallway from a bedroom. My sister was 7 years older than me. So the reason I'm giving this story is because from listening to these songs, my mind didn't just listen, and kind of bebop or whatever, like, oh yeah, this is great. My mind actually broke down. I'm like, man, I hear what they're doing in the production. I want to know how they're doing that. I want to know, how they're putting this stuff in. So long story short, let's fast forward. So 16, right? I graduated high school at 16. So right before I graduated, I got a production deal with Double O Productions. I'm from the DC area. So they were actually affiliated with a top-notch label. And I learned some things, but it was a very short, my dad signed the contract and whatnot, but it was a very short-lived because the pieces didn't all align, so they went defunct. So there was my music career. I mean, even though it kind of like started and ended, at the same time. With that said, I was always into music and always, somewhat in the scene in DC. But of course, when I graduated, I went to college, I played ball at a top-notch school, and I was only there a couple of years, and then went to the military. So I kind of always, my brain was always working and going, but never really understood the intricacies of music, as far as being in the studio for a long time, So anyways, I get out the military, and I go to the Barnes & Noble here in Raleigh, North Carolina at Crabtree, and from, I think it was like about 3.5 hours, I pulled the book off the shelf, I read it, and it was How to Start and Run Your Own Record Label by Deanna Schwartz. So I think I showed you that book. And so from picking that book up, and I didn't buy it, not because I was being cheap. I wanted to make sure it was actually real, that I could do stuff. So 3.5 hours, put the book back on the shelf, went downtown Raleigh, opened my first record label legally. And from there, it was School of Hard Knocks. I was, I'm pretty high strung, pretty high energy, but, when I don't know things, I'm very honest about it, so I try to kind of sync up with people who are either doing it on a small level or, try to sync up with studios, and, always kind of kept getting brushed off. So I got pissed off and just was like, what, because I'm genuine. I never, say, oh, I can do this and do that, and I can't do it, because that's how you lose credibility. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so I just kind of learned things, and you've seen my music book collection, and just read and read and read. And then I was still trying to sync up, the frustration I had. I was doing everything on my own, which is not entirely a bad thing, but when there's so many moving pieces, it's a lot. So I end up syncing up with a gentleman. I won't say his name. I don't want to name drop, but I synced up with a gentleman. He was starting a company. He was a top intern at one of the biggest studios here in Raleigh. And I bugged the nonsense out of him for months, and he was doing that thing where he was trying to brush me off, Finally he was like, dude, this dude ain't quitting. So he brought me on board, and he asked me, do you know anything about music publishing? And I was like, I have no idea. I have no idea about music publishing. I just came clean. He was like, look, buy this book, Make Music, Make Money by Eric Beale. And that's been my Bible, So I read that. And of course, music publishing is music law, and music law is derived from Latin. So I'm reading this book and I'm just like lost. I got some of it, very little, but I'm like, oh, this is just ridiculous. So anyways, I just kept kept pushing. And then I ended up cold calling labels. Like I'm talking the major labels. Well, ended up befriending a good person. She's out of Atlanta, and she was the right hand to the president of Def Jam. So I built that rapport, and pretty much my job was the company that I was with was called TIC, the Industry Connect, and initially I was just like kind of brought on and whatever, but the music publishing side, was really needing to be pushed forward. So I represented the catalog for TIC. So the owner and the other gentleman, I'm trying not to name drop. So but they did all the production, all the songwriting, everything was done in house, and I'm talking it's some phenomenal stuff. So I took the catalog, and I think they were testing me, the two of them from TIC, and they were like, look, take these. I think it was like 30 or 40 songs, and they were like, listen to them. Tell us who you think, like from a major label perspective, who do you think, should go on these tracks? So of course I'm listening to them like Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, this person, that person. So I went through them, and I even did, like, I didn't just like for one song, it could be like like a Lil Wayne and like somebody else, I didn't just pigeonhole us. So I presented it to them, to the two of them from TIC, and they were like, yo, like he's dead on. I mean, as far as like how, I know the cadence of all the different, rappers, and then of course I know how singers sing and all that. So they were like, yeah, we feel comfortable with him representing this. So anyways, long story short, I ended up from cold calling and using this book, Make Music, Make Money. I ended up syncing up with Def Jam, Universal, and Sony. So Def Jam was a huge I'm trying to think of the word, like not only a learning curve, but I learned a lot from my contact at Def Jam, and was just real raw and honest. But I was professional and I was respectful, and I think that stood out. And my energy, I have, I'm very persistent, but I am respectful and polite and and professional. So we ended up getting, I want to make sure it was either 3 or 4 songs. I know 3 at the minimum. We had a album on Rick Ross's Port of Miami. We had a song, and when I say we, it's TIC, but I'm giving credit to the two that did the songwriting and production and publishing. And it was Rihanna's. I always forget the album that Rihanna did with Umbrella was on it. I always call it the Umbrella album because I call it her Black album. But it was that album, and then in fact, I just found my book where this morning, as a matter of fact, it was ironic, but this book I like literally have all of from like, this is like back in 07, 08. Like I wrote down like dates and time and who I talked to at the labels and whatnot. I haven't seen it in years. But and then there was another, I think it was Brother, was a Def Jam's R&B like kind of boy band or whatever. So anyways, so they took the songs. We got paid an initial amount of monies. And I negotiated, what the music publishing rate would be past that. Well, unfortunately, and I always give credit to where credit's due. Shakir Stewart was the president of Def Jam when we were on. Jay-Z had just left to start Rock Nation. So at that time, Jay-Z was president of Def Jam. Shakir Stewart was vice president. When Jay-Z left, Shakir took over. And Shakir was awesome. And I'm not just saying it because what ended up happening was kind of tragic. He ended up committing suicide, and my contact at Def Jam called me. I was one of the first few, that she called and let me know. Well, the reason I tell this story is because all of the projects that we had on those high-profile albums got shelved, and the reason they got shelved is because you had a new regime come in. I don't know if you remember me talking about this at the Handsome Audio event. So they got shelved. So we learned like, holy crud, whoever thinks, when you're on a project and things are going well, I mean, anything can happen, but you're like, the rapport has been great, but the regime changed when Shakir unfortunately committed suicide. So they had a completely different idea of what they wanted for these albums. And the albums, I think, if I always get my timeline messed up, but when you release projects from labels, you do it by quarters. So of course there's 4 quarters in a year. And I think this was supposed to be coming out like somewhat in the 4th quarter of it was either 07 or 08. But anyways, everybody's project, like all of, and no lie, all of hip hop, not just Def Jam, all of hip hop kind of stopped. Just everybody stopped because they were paying homage to Shakir. So all those projects, especially on Def Jam, just got pushed into the next year, but they ended up shelving us. And when they shelve you, there's a clause in the contract that says that if they don't end up using it, no matter whose fault it is, whatever, they still can hold on to it for a year. Right. So you've got your project, and you're like, man, I could shop this to somebody else. Whatever. Nope, you got it. It's held for a year. So, I learned through this whole process, and through doing that, not only because of course I was, the vice president for music publishing with TIC, but I started looking into I wasn't happy with major labels to begin with, but I was playing that game. So I ended up just through the years and years and years. And of course, I produce and I've engineered some of the top studios as an intern and whatnot. And I just formulated my own, because I look at myself, yes, I'm a music publishing guru, but I look at myself more as a music business guru with a emphasis on music publishing, because I know the ins and outs and know how to navigate. And, the music game from the major perspective is just not built from a business model standpoint. It's not built well. It's not really built for the artist, because you got to look at major music labels as banks. I mean, that's because when you get, like, you always hear the word back in the day, advance, I get an advance, I get an advance. That's just a loan. And you never, what a lot of artists don't understand is, let's say, you sign up my label and I'm like, yo, you hot, 100,000, boom, there you go, that's your advance. Well, what people don't realize is that, or artists don't realize, is that you don't see a penny of any money until I recoup my money, period. Even if you're, like, let's say the percentage, let's say we go in a 50-50 deal, Right. So a lot of artists, they're like, okay, 50-50, I got the $100,000 advance, okay. And then you always hear about, I always use, talking with you, Dre, like the TLC story where, like, TLC was on and popping and huge, and they're like, yeah, we broke. I mean, like, we ain't got no money. Like, we've never, because the label kept charging them for everything. Studio time, tour buses, the tour, this and that. I mean, like, it all adds up. So that $100,000 advance you end up owing me, like, potentially, like, millions. So that's
crazy.
Yeah, and then I'm talking. There's nobody that can deny this. I mean, from a major, label perspective. And it just depends on how your contract is derived. But yeah, that's how artists end up getting the shaft. And even though, yes, they floss, and even now, they floss and whatnot, like, yeah, they took that advance money and either bought the car, or, they go into and they buy these fancy houses and stuff. But a lot of times, banks and loan institutions, to a degree, will loan you money based off the merit of your star power, because they know you're making something. Back. Yeah. They know in some form or fashion, to a degree, depending on what pinnacle of stardom you're at, they can end up getting the money, or they can, put, cease letters on stuff and, get their money back. I mean, it's all a huge, unfortunate, like, legal game, but artists don't understand that. So I have this platform now called Own Yourself, Be Discovered, and it deals with, pretty much I consult for independent artists, some companies, and I explain to them, I'm very raw and real about what I call the old traditional business models for the music industry. And I'm very clear about it, very blatant. And by the way, I'm not an entertainment attorney. I can speak with the best of them. I can hang with the best of them. I am not an attorney, but, and I advise, go out there and get an awesome entertainment attorney. Because the point, and then some people may say, well, what's the point of, you, Derrick, or Hef? And it's like, well, I'm a consultant, so I'm a lot cheaper than an attorney, because an attorney is going to cost you hundreds of dollars, up to hundreds of dollars an hour. So you can, hire me. I can, like, pretty much lay everything out, explain what kind of, in more broader detail, what I'm explaining now. And then when you go to your entertainment attorney, you're lined up. I mean, there may be a couple things you have to do, but you're good to go. So you're not spending as much money on an attorney, because, I mean, like, if you come raw and go to an attorney and they charging, anywhere, $150, $200, $300 an hour, that money adds up quick.
Yeah, I mean, same thing as going to, like, Wake Tech, for instance.
Yep.
Before you go, yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's a perfect example. Think about it. Wake Tech. You can go there and take transferable credit courses that are NC State certified courses. Take your 2 years, whatever you want to do, transfer to NC State, and you've spent less than half the money. I mean, that's the kind of, so that's a great way to put it, is I'm like the Wake Tech. I'm like the Wake Tech. Yeah, I mean, you're getting real stuff. There's no smoke and mirrors. I'm very transparent, but then you can go and take that and do what you need to with it. I know that was like really long, but I mean that I didn't know any other way to kind of condense it down.
But yeah, so you really had a book as your mentor, like for most of your life.
Yeah. And the thing is, and it's not like cry me a river and feel sorry for me, but the whole point of it, I don't want to see other people go through that, because I mean it's yes, you learn, but it's actually quite sad, especially because I'm always one for and more importantly than just trying to get people to pay me, I'm also about seriously building relationships and the building something to where then the monies can come through or can be built upon and all that, because you can sit here and I always tell, who was I talking to the other day? I was talking to an artist and I was like, look, there doesn't always have to be the exchange of money, green, every interaction. What I mean by that, like, say for example, you're an artist and you need a video done for your song, and you have a small little team or whatever, and you got a producer, it's on your squad, and you can say, hey, so and so, can you produce quick song track for something that this videographer is doing, and you all sit and talk, and what you're doing or providing from the artist's perspective to the videographer and vice versa. If you all can sit and collectively say, okay, what I need from you is worth this amount, what I can provide is of equal or maybe a couple bucks less, and you all can agree upon that, you can trade services. You don't need to trade, it doesn't, I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand, money pays bills and all that, but depending on, and I'm talking about like, having a contract and just saying, hey, look, I'm doing this for you, you're providing me this,
Right.
That's a great way to build rapport, and to, even though that person may not be exclusively on your team, but that's a way to have someone that does a service that you need kind of accessible on the team, for the team. So.
Knowledge.
I feel like that like helped me. Like my mind is like got a massage from that noise.
See, a lot of stuff's being thrown at you. Sometimes you gotta hit a button or just have a moment to just sit and process. Cause when stuff like that happens, you getting talked to for about, and you just getting put on game for life or whatever. You need something that you can just
Break it up,
sit down and process, and not just like, yo, what in the world? Because if you just sit and take it, your head gonna explode.
Yeah.
Just like learning about how certain things in the world may work, you find that out. It's like, from a kid, being a naive kid, you find that out. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do now. I thought life was like this before. Now this was really about. So sometimes you just gotta process and just sit by yourself. It's like, all right.
Oh, wait, I mean, if you think about it, like, I mean, even if I'm not mistaken, scientifically, like when you read anything, your brain only retains 20 to 30% of whatever you're reading or engaged in. So if you try to like sit there, like people say, oh, I'm cramming for for school or whatever, like, yeah, good luck. I mean, because you can cram all you want to, but your brain's only going to retain so much.
Yeah, that's why you got to keep rereading and relearning it and actually applying.
Yep.
Because if you never apply what you learn, then you're not going to retain anything.
Yeah.
That's why they say use it or lose it.
Facts. Now, sir, Zoe, do you have any questions for Mr. Derrick over here?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, like, if you were like, you're a really early artist, like you just bought your first mic, but you want to be like global, like, what is your first step for getting your music out to as many people as possible?
Well, honestly, just
I would say Instagram, but like at the same time, like that's still hard.
YouTube. Just honestly, like,
But
don't put
how
out
you
your
do-
best work, but put out work that's gonna be enough to say people will listen.
But
Just
like,
think
still,
about,
like it's still like a very small audience. Like build it.
No,
How do you build your?
I'm gonna
audience?
blow your mind. So, do your music, your production. I mean, go to a great studio like AMI. That, I mean, seriously, that has people that know what they're doing, and so then you get in that top notch quality music. But do the social media platforms. With that said, You also need to be building relationships with other platforms like music forums, anywhere that there are, per se, other producers and artists and fans and engaging. Because here's the thing: why the number one question that you need to play in your mind constantly is why should anybody, and it doesn't matter who, I mean, fan, producer, music company, whatever.
Listen,
Why?
stuff.
Yeah, why should they invest in me? Like, why should they listen? And when I say invest, I mean time. Because think about it. When I say invest, it doesn't mean monetary. It means time. It means just giving of oneself in whatever format. So why should they invest in me? So, but if you're in these different chat rooms or forums, and of course having your stuff still on social media platform, then people are going to start noticing, if you engage in, like, I mean, just think of what I'm saying, like, as a online podcast. I mean, like, you're in there and you're talking to people and, just kind of, and it's not only like going in there saying, hey, listen to my, because the biggest thing I hate, is everybody's always listen to my stuff. And that's like, I mean, I get it, but it's kind of like, why don't you come and say, hey, and have a conversation. Like, like, oh, what do you do? And it's like, oh, what, and then that's why I started with my story where I was a kid, my stepmom and all that, because that's great if I come in here and go, hey, I'm a, music business guru. And it's like, all right, well, who's this freaking dude? I mean, you want to be not only relatable and be genuine, but it's more to the game than just going, hey, listen to my stuff. So if that makes any sense. I mean, but also too, with the social media platforms is, I advise every artist, because it doesn't cost that much money, is to have a website, a .com, and then having your social media platforms, like, because of course I guess the biggest one, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and I think Twitter's kind of dying. I mean, Twitter's used, but it's kind of going out. But at least those big three, and then I'm not discounting YouTube, but those three have each one linked to each other, and then have all those social media platforms linked to your .com. So anytime somebody finds you, they can either, if they find you on your .com, they can look at your social media platforms, go, ooh, and then hit there. And then if they find you from the social media platforms, they can go look at your other social media platforms or go to your .com. It's got to be a revolving cycle.
What are some things to avoid when you're trying to, like, get your name out there?
To avoid, I won't say necessarily avoid, but just be smart. If you have to spend money, I know we talked about exchange of services, but if you, like, for example, like, building your website, that stuff you have to pay for, with a card or cash, but be strategic. Like, it's probably worth paying for, your website month to month, versus doing a whole annual thing, just because you're like, it's not a matter of trying to think negative and go, oh man, I may not last, but yeah, you're paying more when you pay per month, but you may have to change some things, or you may have to do some things differently. So, and if you're not sure, like, for example, like, let me back up further. I actually wanted to be an artist, because I was a choir kid. So, I could sing, and, of course, at this time, of course, you got the Justin Timberlakes, and you got, so I'm like, okay, so there's white dudes that, you had John B back in my day, so and there were very few, but a couple white dudes that could actually sing. So I'm like, all right, I want to do this. And then as I started getting into it, and was going in the studio back in the day, I was like, you know what, I really don't enjoy this as much. I enjoy more of the production, more of the engineering side than I do as being an artist. Now I'll drop some hooks or some lines or whatever, even in some stuff today, but I wasn't as pumped about being an artist. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I say just kind of be strategic and not throwing all your eggs in one basket, because things can shift just naturally.
So going back to the kind of you wanting to be a engineer instead of an artist, is it better to kind of be a jack of all trades, a master at none, or a master at one and not a jack of all trades?
See, my personal opinion is I'd rather be kind of into everything in a master of none. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, because here's the thing. That's how a lot of artists, like especially on major labels, have gotten shafted, because they didn't know a little bit of enough of something to go, hold on. How can I explain this? Like, so if you knew a little bit about, I'm talking very tiny, of like music publishing or contracts. I mean, yeah, you know, you may not be an attorney, but you can go, hold on, something hold on, I've seen that word somewhere. I don't know if I like that, you know. Versus if you don't know anything, then it's kind of like you get shafted. And you're like, well, I didn't know, you know. I mean, and then you find out like super the hard way, you know. So that's my opinion. I'd rather know a little bit about, you know, what, and then because you can still be a master of one thing over here, but still know, you know, a little something over here. So it's just a matter. And to me too, the reason I say that is because if you try to like, you know a little bit of everything, then you can choose from there. I want to learn this, or I really want to know this, or I know I don't like this. I want to concentrate myself into this. It gives you a broader and better perspective of what you may want to just hone yourself in on, if that makes any sense.
Right. So advice to artists and producers. What about building and putting out their catalog? Should they put it out for free on these platforms, or try to look at as soon as they start making it and it gets to a point where it's kind of good, monetizing off of it?
Both. So you can, to me, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me because I get in all kinds of conversations going against this. If I believe radio, and I understand it's jacked up because like radio, like your local driving down, you know, in your car radio, local stations. I think that type of music should be free, because from the perspective of, yes, you put time or money into your project or projects or album or whatever, records, and but I think anything like your streaming platforms, local radio, I think that all should be free. Like you shouldn't expect anything out of it. First off, because it's hard as crap to navigate. And in fact, I was just watching, for all you out there, real quick, I want to do a plug. Jeff Price, he's actually the owner and co-founder of TuneCore. So if you know about TuneCore, and that's a whole digital distribution platform stuff, look up Jeff Price if you don't know who he is. Dude is phenomenal. But even he's got a thing on YouTube where he's talking about like they've design stuff like these streaming platforms and major labels and all that to where it's, you know, just insane to try to figure out how to get your money. So instead of spinning your wheels, you know, kind of in the back of your mind, anything that you want to like streaming or local radio, chalk it up as, I'm just trying to get my stuff out there. I'm trying to do it smart, but I'm not going to get paid off that. Where you should look at getting paid is trying to call up and act like you got 2 bits of sense and act professional, but call up like movie studios, whether they're like, you know, B films or, you know, top notch, you know, movie companies. And we're talking like per se, like Screen Gems and like, you know, companies that make the movies, not like, you know, the ones that are putting it out. But then look at syncing up with marketing agencies, because they're the ones that make the commercials for Geico and, you know, Allstate and whatever, you know, else the other companies. And just maybe syncing up with other, you know, artists and producers and seeing, you know, without seeming grimy or whatever, but just seeing like what they're doing. And if, you know, you have a particular production stock, I know a lot of artists try to dabble in production as well and whatnot, you know, so just see if there's something that you can offer that can help make the collective money, you know, beside yourself.
I don't think people, especially artists and producers, upcoming anyway, understand the TV, the commercial, the movie bag.
Yeah,
that's a serious type of bag. Because I remember seeing a podcast or interview where Pusha T had the original McDonald's commercial.
Yeah, I know all about that. Yep. Da 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 da.
And he passed.
Yep.
No, he didn't pass on. He just sold it. He didn't get royalties.
He sold
on
it. Yep. He sold it. I'm loving it. Yeah, he sold that. And here's the thing. That's why, you know, I always tell people, you know, to use people like me. I mean, because I mean, if you're coming in the game, you know, hopefully you're doing, you know, a little bit of research. I mean, when I say a little bit, I mean, because there's so much out there. There's so much noise. You know, you're trying to cipher through. Like, is this shit real, or, you know, is this, you know, whatever. But you know, trying to sync up with people and, you know, vet people. I mean, I get, you know, questioned to death. Like, people are like, you know, side eye looking at me like, you know, what have you done? Well, I mean, this is what I've done, you know what I mean? And there's no denying it. So, you know, that's why you want to sync up with people who, you know, and I've been far removed. Like I stepped out the game for a little bit just because there was so much noise going on, and you know the shifting with the digital platforms and all that. You know, I took a step back, but you know I've come back in now that I'm retired. You know, because I'm retired military. Yeah, I mean, just trying to sync up with people who aren't full of crap. I mean, even as a new artist, that's the best way to to tell you to try to get in where you fit in. You know.
Being and involved in the team, very important. Knowing people that do what you do, very important. Because think about it. If you only know you, how can you get better? If you only have a team of you, how can you track the marketing, the analytics, the money going in and out of different places, different types of platforms, the websites you need to be getting in and trying to figure out how they work? Just think, it's a lot of stuff you need to know how to do to be able to get into the millions and billions of dollars. So if it's just you only gonna go but so far. You might not even get off the ground because it's a whole lot of work and time. And you're trying to be creative on top of knowing the business. But you still can do it. But it still takes away because it's a lot of time to learn each of these things. So,
well, and I'll tell you this, especially and it doesn't matter when I use artist cliche, you know, but it's artist producers, whatever, you know, when you start out, and I've been saying this for decades. Yeah, you know, if you have a good friend that's like, yo, you know, that's hot, you know, yeah, that's all right. I mean, as long as they're giving you like seriously, like around here, a lot of people call me the Simon Cowell. Locally, just because I don't just go, yeah, that's horrible. I'll say it's horrible and this is why. And I'm literally critiquing it, you know, or even if I say, oh, that's hot, this is why. Don't get caught in that trap, you know, where everybody around you, you know, is a yes man, or they just don't. I mean, don't come out and be like, your shit sucks. Just go do something with yourself. You know, I mean, you don't do that either. But you know, when you got people like, you know, your family, oh, baby, no, that's just so great. You know, I mean, like, okay, she's, you know, your mom, grandma, they got to say that. I mean, you know, so take it with a grain of salt. But you want people who either, even if somebody's not like really doing it, but it's a unbiased, you know, viewpoint, you know, take that with constructive criticism and take it with a grain of salt, you know, but also kind of sync up with people who are somewhat doing it locally, or have, you know, legitimate understanding in the industry, you know, because that's what's going to help you grow. Because I mean, if you're sitting in your house and, you know, just recording yourself, or, you know, making your own, you know, beats and whatnot, nobody ever hears it, what's the point? I mean, like you're not getting better, you know. I mean, you're not learning how to grow from that.
Yeah. So in order to just put it out, but have different people hear it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have your homies here. You can't have just your parents hearing it, because you don't know how good it is until you get somebody that's not your people's.
I'm telling you, believe it or not, because I know back in the, and they still did it in the early 2000s, but like the 80s and 90s, your best way of gauging things. Now, as far as, you know, going in the studio and knowing how, you know, you mix and master and engineer, you know, you really need to go to like a studio to get that, you know, perfection of that nature. But once you get a project, I'm telling you, do what they did in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Go out in the street, find somebody or find people you don't know and go, what do you think about this? And don't even say, oh, this is me. Just say, what do you think about this? And it don't matter if it's hip hop, rock, whatever, and just say, what do you think about this? And you're going to get some real raw, honest feedback. They're either going to be like, you know, hey, you know, I like that, or hey, I don't know, that sucks. And you can go, okay. But then ask, okay, all right, well, why does that suck? And here's the thing, and if people are telling you, even if it's people close to you, like I just said, they go, oh, it's great, or it sucks. Why? Ask them why.
Because then they gotta like.
Well, not only that they got, but even if they're like, I don't know, and it's like, all right, well, not to be mean, your review or your opinion means shit. You know, I mean, seriously, I mean, you know, 'cause I don't mind somebody close to me critiquing, but I want to know why, because I'm not offended either way, you know, by what they're saying. You have to have also that tenacity to just be like, man, you know, I know I'm hearing this and I do like it. And, you know, even if you're comparing it to stuff that's, you know, and what I mean by comparing, I don't mean like you're pretty much almost copying something that's out on radio or out on YouTube or whatever. I always listen, like, because I said how my brain works. I listen for is my sound as far as the clarity and the crispness and how things are mixed in. Does it sound like that? That whole professional sound. That's what I'm always wanting to do better and know better and figure it out, or have somebody do it that knows what the heck they're doing, that I can tell that they know what they're doing. That's what I'm talking about. So that way you're always pushing yourself. But yeah, if you don't have any viable, legitimate, unbiased feedback, you're just spinning your wheels.
Because like a lot of people out here, they're putting out music, and it's oversaturated. But everybody likes sound. So if you just play it for somebody random on the street, if they like it, they're going to tell you. And if they don't like it, they're going to tell you. Because music is universal. Everybody likes music. Different types, different forms, different aspects, whatever. But everybody will continue to listen because it's just a way of life. Just think about it. If the world lived without sound, what would we be doing? It would be just a bunch of deaf people walking around not knowing where to put ourselves.
Well, it's funny you say that, because if you actually look, with like music theory and all that, like the whole point of, it was more, super, I won't say dumbed down, but it was, you don't have all the different, pieces in music. Music was initially created for communication amongst tribes. That's exactly what music was created for. They would hit certain things, if they created their own drums and whatnot, to either create a warning or to create, it's silly as it's dinner time. It was a way of communication. So music is communication. That's what it was from its inception, before, people really started getting on and popping, from I can even go way back to what's called sheet music, for back in like the 1800s and whatnot, when they were playing piano, and then somebody got the bright idea to create sheet music so that way they could sell it. So that's how they started making money on music. Besides just, hey, pay me a couple bucks to sit in your bar and play piano, dude, I got a lot of knowledge, sorry.
And if you think about it, if you're a communications major in college, you have to, if you say something that's out of the norm, people are naturally just going to click to it because, I never heard that before. Mm-hmm. Or if you got a sound that's out of this world and so different, but it's just like, where's that coming from? How did this person make that? So kind of the juxtapose artists and producers, try to make something nobody has ever heard before. Obviously, you're going to be dragging from past sounds and past lyrics or whatever, because nothing's really original. It's just remixed and remade. So it's just keep trying to create and define your own sound, because it's a lot of music that's the same. But if you make it that's the same, at least make it in your own way that's so crisp and so kind of out of the ordinary from that people are just like, this is the best in this arena.
That's kind of crazy. It's kind of hard to do that, because like the main thing you do to get better at music is listening to a lot of music and like having a good understanding of what makes a good song. So like you have to listen to other people's crap, and then like when you write, it's probably what's taking like control. So I feel like you should not, when you first start rapping, I feel like you should just like take what you've heard, right, and just like make your own sound first. And then after you like write for a year what you really think is rap, and then like start listening to other rap and like start using their tools, like the way they rhyme, to help you out, help you convey your message. Because that way it's not already watered down by the time. Because like a lot of stuff is good. A lot of people can write good raps, but it's not all original.
But a lot of people can rap, but they ain't saying nothing either.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I didn't know if this was going to segue. The hardest problem I'm having, I'm older in age, but like this whole, well, I guess it's clarified, mumble rap. Like the issue that I'm having, because now I'm trying to stay as unbiased as possible, because I've been in the music industry, is like when I was growing up, when I told you, I was listening to my sisters, what is she listening to, and you had like Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff, parents just don't understand. And of course, even I know before then you had Run DMC, and even before then you had, as ironic, well, actually before Sugar Hill Gang, disco was kind of like the entrance into hip hop, in my opinion. But listening to all the people I just named, you had people going, what noise is this? This is just junk and anarchy. And so kind of we're having the same thing with the mumble rap, genre. But I'm looking past and I'm looking at, these artists and I'm listening to music and I'm just like, I don't want to sound like an old head, but I'm like, they're not like there's no genuine like music. I mean, you can take out the artist, take out the rap. Just even listening to some of the production, not all of it is bad by any means. I'm not saying that, but like I'd say 3/4 of it at the minimum is horrible, and I'm just like, why? I don't understand. I mean, I understand you want to do something different, something you haven't heard before, and I'm down with that, but I just don't understand. And even if you get different artists, even the cadence is the same, and it's like, I really don't understand. I mean, and I'm trying to be open-minded because, I was a kid during the era of when they were like, rap was just coming out and they were like, this shit ain't gonna last that long. This is gonna be short-lived. Give it a couple years. And of course now every major car company, insurance company, everything is using hip hop. I mean, even hip hop isn't, because hip hop isn't just about music. Hip hop is a culture, and that's also, why a lot of people don't understand that hip hop has far surpassed any and everything a lot of, and I can say this, a lot of white people, a lot of white executives thought. I mean, I'm just gonna be real, and of course now and then you had your pioneers, like Jimmy Iovine, and I've taught, Jimmy Iovine is great. The reason I was making a face is because I was thinking about Clive Davis, because I mean, Clive Davis isn't a horrible person. I'm not knocking him, but I've always catered to people who kind of saw like genuine, not just for, don't get me wrong, business is about money. If you ain't making money or you're not moving forward, you ain't doing anything, which is true. But I try to look at, I don't know, like I guess growing up in a black family and the way that I was, I won't say taught, because believe it or not, everything that I do, I saw everything, if that makes any sense. Like my stepmom kind of sort of did, but didn't teach me how to dress. Like I saw how she dressed, and I was like, you know what, that's what's up, And then I listened to the music she was listening to. I'm like, that's what's up. She didn't tell me I had to listen to it. It just kind of became me. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I look at people in the industry that are really trying to propel the industry. So if that makes any sense.
Pretty much, you're basically saying you're looking at people that's trying to kind of uplift.
Yeah, like I feel like if you're a musician, you got a lot. Like it's not, you have a lot on your shoulders because you got to give people something they can improve their life. Like like stopping someone from killing themselves, for example. Like you have a big like responsibility on your shoulders, and some of the guys are just talking about like taking pills and stuff.
But do they? Reason I say but do they, because anybody could pick up a mic and start rapping. Anybody could pick up a beat machine or a beat program and start making beats. And if they make money off of what they saying and it's detrimental, and somebody signs them for it.
But like I'm talking about like more of like a superhero. Like a superhero, like you expect them to like try to help. You know what I'm saying? So like as an artist, I feel like you're people's superhero. You're their role model. So I feel like you have like a duty to make good music.
Only reason I disagree with that because artists are not supposed to be role models. Some people may not like me saying that, but that's just a fact. Artists, athletes, entertainers, these people are not supposed to be role models because it's entertainment. Most of these people don't live what they're talking about or don't.
No, but like it doesn't have to be like exactly like like moral, but like it's got to be like you just have to do your best in your music. You have to make the best music you possibly can.
See, it's funny y'all talking about this because I'm sitting there listening, and so because I'm always torn, and it's not because I never sit in the fence on any topic, in general in life. But what you're talking about to me, because I do agree and I don't. So you're talking about what I was talking about, like with the white executives, is the culture vultures versus entertainment, and it's that weird line where it's like, to me, I
do things, whether it's, buy into something or do something based off of what I know, or even if it's little I know, whatever, off of how genuine the person is. Like, I'm going to take, for example, like Justin Timberlake. I'm going to me, in my eyes, phenomenal human being. If you've watched some of his shows, I've been to a couple of his shows, and like not only just how he interacts and the show that he puts on, like if you look at everything he does, I mean, from the inception of working with Timbo, who's one of my favorite producers of all and engineers, just Justin Timberlake as a human being is just phenomenal. So it's kind of like, for me, and it's not just because he's white, I mean, there's other people, but I look at it and go, man, there's just something about him as a human, not because of course he's an actor, he's an artist, he does, I think he's got his own liquor brand now, with his boy that he grew up with. And that's all. And even, I just even kind of put the thought in my head as well. It's also how you treat the people near or around you. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. It's not because like you're saying, like with not being a role model, it's also not your job to have to put on everybody, that you either grew up with either. But if people are able to, you're able to trust them and, they're able to do certain things for you, then you bring them on and they serve a legitimate purpose. And of course, then you have that great thing of the personal relationship. Going to entertainers in general, and I'm even talking past music. I'm talking music. I'm talking sports. I'm talking
that's what I was getting at. Yeah, not just music.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Even in all those categories, yes, kids look up, to those type of figures. And I don't even want to get off on a tangent, but at the end of the day, it's up to. There's one thing I learned about, and this is me. And hopefully I'm not offending anybody, in Black culture, because I was submerged in Black culture. I agree with the statement, it takes a tribe. Both my parents work, so my sister, kind of quasi, raised me and would, she wouldn't spank me, but, if I did something wrong, she'd, you gonna get in trouble, and it was, that healthy fear thing. And then, of course, my grandparents raised me, and, I had, from my white biological side, I had, because trust me, white and Black people do things different. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I mean, as cliche as that sounds, it's the truth. So, my dad's parents, my grandparents, raised me a certain way, and I held myself to a certain standard. And of course, my mom on the Black side, there's just the differences, but all those together, helped raise me. TV didn't raise me. Bo Jackson didn't raise me. I mean, so, and I think there's a responsibility on all those levels, to accept as the tribe or parents or grandparents, and not let a iPad raise your kids. I mean,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Also, I'm okay. Look. I guess what I'm saying is I feel like they should do the best as they're possible to master their craft. Because, like, think if you went to a basketball game and, like, LeBron James was just he's not really playing for real, and he just shoot, like, people are watching every time. So I feel like you have to give your hardest, and, like, just so you give the world a show.
That I agree with. No, I no, in that aspect, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's different if you're injured or if you're sick or something like that. Even if you're an artist, you always can't give your all. But, like, yeah, like, perfect example. If I went to a Justin Timberlake concert and he was just like, out there kind of doing, doing something like, hey, and I was like, well, I paid, $400 for these tickets. I mean, like, what? So that's what you're talking about, like, constantly. And see, that's also an internal thing. And see, that's also what I gauge off of people that I, try to build relationships and, work with, whether you're paying me or not, is, yes, we all have different personalities, but how much quality and heart do you have? Like, are you doing this just to do it? No, I don't care. I mean, I'm not trying to, I know we're talking about music, but I build my relationships off of people, off of how they live, period. Because to me, I always told people, I work like I live like I work. I mean, Dre will tell you, I mean, like, you come to my house, I mean, I got a full-fledged music studio, I've got a custom pool, like, we can hang out. I mean, like, I'm the same way, if we work in here, like, I want to, it's going to be professional, but I want to have a good time. I want the vibes to be good. I want us to bust our ass, but if you're going to come in here and be like, okay, hits a couple things, what are we doing? I mean, right. You're not giving all of yourself, you know what I'm saying? And that's huge. I mean, but if you constantly do that, act in that fashion where you're not, then it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know if that makes any sense. It's kind of segueing off, what you're saying. I don't want to deal with you, and why should anybody else?
But you got a lot of people out here just making money off trash. Just keep it honest. and
That's
it
the
works.
problem.
And it
That's the
works.
problem.
But
Like,
people still listen to it. It's not on the artist or on us to be able to be a role model of these people, because it's not just it's not even entertainment music problem. It's a society issue.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
people now, it's just a fact. People don't think and act the same they did 10, 20 years ago. That's just a fact.
Who you telling?
Just going back to what you said, take a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
Back before the crack era hit, that's kind of how black culture was.
Yes.
Everybody, your grandmama's best friend and your mom's best friend can whoop you, and she won't say nothing.
Yep.
Now she can't. This person can't even touch your kid because they'll call a restraining order.
Well, not even that. I mean, like now, I'm gonna get off on a tangent. Nowadays, even parents can't even raise their own kids as far. I mean, because I ain't gonna lie, I grew up in the era of, and I have to admit, my biological mom, I mean, she believed in spanking, so it wasn't none of that, hey, going time out, kind of nonsense. I mean, don't get me wrong. Now we're going to get into a whole nother thing where, like, you don't want to do things out of complete anger. You want to do things with a level head. But at the same time, we're, and this is music, sports, whatever. I mean, like, even with sports, every kid within the last, 10, 15, or actually more than that, probably 10 or 20 years, everybody was given a trophy. What the, like, really? Like, so you're not teaching